going to... Namaste, Namo Buddhaya. I shall continue, I will answer or talk about some of these questions and answers. And try not to go off on a tangent. As before becoming a monk, did you see many signs that lead you there, such as angel numbers or some kind of messages that helped you convert from Christian to Buddhist? Because I come from same background of Christianity, leaning to Buddhism. I didn't see any angels or special numbers or the kind of miraculous signs one might think of or hear about in stories from some traditions, maybe, I don't know. But I certainly did see the signs, as did the Buddha, and we call those the 4 heavenly messengers. The first being aging, the second being sickness, the third being death, and the 4th being the samana. Now it was really the 4th sign. I had lived with people aging and people having sickness and people dying, but didn't really see those as signs. But seeing the samana, a monk, not originally in the Christian tradition of Catholicism, because I went to a school that had monks. If anything, they kind of confused me a little about religion. That someone could actually give up their life for belief. It was only when I saw monks whom were giving up their ordinary life for tangible, quantifiable, substantial reasons that one could see the truth of here and now in this very lifetime, rather than having to wait to die. That I really saw that, yes, that's interesting. Becoming a Christian monk didn't appeal to me because I wasn't sure whether there was heaven, hell. I wasn't sure whether there was God or the devil. Of course, I was sure there is Jesus. We cannot doubt this. This is historical fact. Even his mother Mary. But that was as sure as I could be as far as the teachings of the Bible were concerned. So monastic life didn't appeal to me in my youth. But later on, having got into meditation and then later discovered Buddhism, I came across Buddhist monks. Firstly, I came across other kind of travelling, wandering ascetics, sadhus, we call them in India, sadhus. And they interested me a lot too. Not because of their religious beliefs, but because of their lifestyle, that nomadic nature, relinquishing renunciant lifestyle of giving everything up and just living very simply in some simple robes with a begging bowl and nothing else. Going here, going there, no concerns. That did appeal to me. And this was a sign and drew my interest to eventually this. I then met Buddhist monks whom had studied the teachings of the Buddha and were living a life in accordance with those Buddhist teachings. And this did inspire me. So these were signs, and indeed the same with the Buddha, who was brought up protected from aging, sickness and death. When he encountered these truths of our existence, he realized that there was no sense putting all his efforts and faith into just materialistic or sensual gratification. And one had to seek more deeply to find true gratification inside through, as he discovered, meditation. So yes, I saw the 4 heavenly messengers, as we call them in Buddhism, of aging, sickness and death, and a monk. In fact, I saw many monks. I was fortunate to find a monastery not too far from me. But at first I thought, I hadn't seen monks like this before. I thought, strange. But I very quickly became comfortable around them and very inspired by the way they lived. So yes, in answer to your question, but perhaps not as you might think. Next question. Please can you turn on subtitles? And then it's in Polish, and this is not the live question thing, so I can't translate it. Well, actually, this is subtitles. YouTube do that. It's an automated procedure. I think you must just go into your settings or something. I think that you can have more or less in any language. Certainly, yes, in Polish. Go in there. Maybe sometimes with the videos they don't come on or available straight away. But I know certainly that they are there, because there is certainly evidence I see here of people watching these talks using subtitles in various languages. So they are there. No, they're nothing to do with me. And turning them on is, I think all I can do is turn them off. Most things get turned on with YouTube. You have to eventually find out how to turn it off. So they are there. So please continue trying and Google it. If there's something I need to do that I haven't done and you can tell me about, please come back to me. But I think we've dealt with this later on in some questions and answers that have come along. So this question may be a little old now. Yes. Yeah, automatic. So they should be there now if they weren't before. Where did you get your robe? Well, that's okay. I have 3 robes. I have this, my upper robe, my lower robe, which is like a skirt, and this, my sangati, which is a double thickness outer robe, upper robe. All of our requisites, so those 3 things, our bowl, the 4th, belt, 5th, razor, 6th, water filter, 7th, Three robes, 1, 2, 3, bowl, razor, belt, water filter, needle and cotton. That's our 8 requisites. These are the only things we own in the world as monks. Everything else is just borrowed from wherever we're staying, or from the monastery that we are affiliated to. So things like mobile phones, for instance. You know, we generally borrow those from the Sangha's resources for use for this purpose, for instance. But we don't need much. But yeah, no, those, so these things, so in answer to your question, where did I get my robes? They were given to me by lay Buddhists, lay supporters. In my case, mine came from lay supporters in Thailand, and we are given robes at our ordination. These are subsequent to that. We're also often given robes at the end of this vasa if we are singled out to be given the robes that are donated. There's one set of special robes donated to a monastery at the end of the rains retreat. So yes, I think I was given a set last year as I was the only monk there, but they're not the robes I'm wearing. These were given to me by Thai lay supporters subsequently before I went to Thailand, and I've had these ever since. So I'll probably not change these now for many years, so they're not something you only have the one set, but you look after them very carefully. But they're given to us. You can't just really go to the shops and buy them. They're not really, in fact you can in places like Thailand, in Buddhist countries, but the reason they sell them is for lay people to give them to monasteries, to give them to monks. Ordinary people wouldn't need them, wouldn't have cause to buy them themselves. I hope that answers your questions. All monks, that is, goes for, yeah, offered by lay supporters. Okay, Oh, I think I've got into some newer questions. Let me make sure I get back to the not so newer questions, otherwise it's jumping the gun a bit today. Oh, here they are. Yeah, I'm not so great with this thing. I'm doing it a slightly different way. That seems even newer. Oh, well, let's get into these ones and we can talk about this about chanting. So we're dealing with those. Do you know of a good book or teaching for Buddhist beginners about marriage? I've really summed a long question up there. You don't want to hear the rest of it. Well, you might, but I'm not going to talk about that. Not particularly. The Buddha had not much to say about marriage. He considered that very much a secular activity. We don't have marriage ceremonies in Buddhism like in the Christian or Abrahamic faiths or anything like this. We don't have weddings. They do often in Buddhist countries have kind of Buddhist weddings because they're Buddhist and they're getting married. They're not specifically religious festivals. In England, for instance, you don't really have to go to church, but you'd probably have a wedding maybe in a church. So it's quite a different thing because the Christian faith has a marriage ceremony and all of this. All you'll get in Buddhism is blessings from monks for your marriage, and it's whatever, success, I suppose. But no, the Buddha didn't have much to say about that. There are a couple of suttas where he gives advice to new brides and maybe even new grooms about how to be respectful and take care of in-laws. And there are, though generally, it all falls into the Noble Eightfold Path about the way you live. Okay, so this applies to everything as well as life within marriage. All relationships, even relationships with your colleagues at work, falls into that aspect of right view, right intention, right speech is the primary one here and there. Right action, right livelihood, right effort, mindfulness and meditation. Those 8 things, 8 points, factors. If you take care of all of those in your life, then you'll have a good marriage, especially right speech, because often an argument or disagreement can occur through something we say, and often that's said by mistake or without thought. And I have 5 tips always for that with right speech, and if you take this into any relationship as well as marriage, it'll help a lot. And that is, I don't know if I can remember them. With regards to right speech, make sure that it is timely. You speak at an appropriate time about something. Now this could be anything from a serious matter to a trivial matter. Always make sure what you're about to say, you're saying at the appropriate time, so timely. Make sure it's truthful. Make sure you say it with the correct tone, kindly, say it nicely. Make sure it's useful and helpful. And finally, make sure if it's about the way someone's doing something or someone's behavior, or it's about anything like this, make sure you yourself are doing it that way too. So if you don't like the way someone's doing something, don't criticize that if you're doing it that way too. But if you do something particularly well and you see someone they could do it better than they're doing it, you are already setting an example. Hopefully they will see, and you don't need to say anything. But if you do need to say anything, only say it then, that you are showing already from experience that you are doing it this way. So this does apply to marriage to some extent, but in terms of the Buddha's teachings, the scriptures, there isn't specifically much said on marriage. He was living in a time when relationships weren't like they are now, single, what do they call it? Monogamous relationships. Often I think in his time they were amorous, polymonogamous, and something like this. They could have many wives and concubines, all sorts going on. So his teachings on relationships, as far as how do you say it? Those kind of relationships are in the precepts, the third precepts. Refrain from sexual misconduct. Now, this doesn't say you can't have many wives. It doesn't say you can't have any orientation sexually, gay, straight, medium, rare. I don't know what all the names are, but anything goes, as long as it's all mutually in agreement with each other for each other's benefit. It's fine. You can have 20 wives or one wife. It doesn't matter. As long as no one's being hurt, everything is for everyone's benefit. Or so each partner is, and there's no lying, because that's covered by another precept anyway. You're not deceiving another partner of someone else. So you understand. So that's all covered in the precepts. Okay, that's that one then. Answer that. So this is a college student whom is interested in Buddhism and has started off with some serious chanting. And this one, I'm going to put 3 questions or so in together here, because they're all about the same kind of thing, really. Well, same answer. Well, firstly, this one's saying he's chanting Om. Oh, it's all gone. He's chanting Om Mani Padme Hum and the Green Tara mantra. And these come from the Tibetan tradition, so I don't know much about that particularly, but that's not what he's asking. He's saying, are there any rules, for example, if I drink alcohol, that I can't chant? Well, there is a rule about alcohol in the 5 precepts. All the rules you need to know about anything, chanting, marriage, anything, are covered in the 5 precepts. It's that simple. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no taking of intoxicants, which includes alcohol. So that applies to everything. Marriage, chanting, going to work, driving a car, whatever you're doing, these are the precepts, the Buddhist basic precepts. There's only 5, so it shouldn't be too hard to remember them. No killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no taking of intoxicants. You see, alcohol's covered in there. No taking of intoxicants. It includes alcohol. So that's nothing to do with chanting. You shouldn't be doing that anyway. The point of chanting, I'll come back to this in a minute, what you're chanting is, if it's what you like, then that's okay. So that we'll come back to that in a little bit more detail in a minute. Oh, that's creeped in. Well, I can't see the other question, but I can remember it. The other one was somebody was referring to various different traditions of chanting again that I'm not familiar with, so I couldn't answer exactly. He was saying which one was better. No particular chanting is better. Okay, you should chant only what you understand. Don't just chant sounds and words for chanting's sake. You could do if you just want this repetitive mantra, but then it doesn't matter what you're saying. But if you want to have meaningful chanting, find some chanting that you understand the meaning of, and you can get translated or translate into your own mother tongue, really get the feeling for it, and only that really is useful. And that is all you should be chanting. Don't get too worried about the format, the number of times you chant it, how you're sitting when you're chanting it. I mean, to some extent that's important, but you don't need to be facing a wall and chant it 16 times or something like that, forwards and backwards. That doesn't matter. Chant meaningful chanting that you understand the meaning of and is useful to you. So, for instance, another question, the third of these 3 to do with chanting, was what translation of such and such a sutta? Somebody asked me. I think it was the Anapanasati Sutta I was chanting. He said, exactly what translation is that? Who was the translator? He said, I have the 200,017 version of Bhikkhu Bodhi. My answer was a bit facetious. I said, well, does it matter? I mean, the thing is, does it matter? No. I chant from the Thai Forest chanting book, the Ajahn Chah, specifically Thai Forest tradition chanting book, which is very common in Thailand and throughout the world because it's easily translated into other languages. It's mainly based on the teachings of the Buddha, the core suttas, the teachings of the Buddha, the reflections, and the paritas, the protection chants. It's very straightforward, and most chanting books are available with your country's translation in it. Now, these have been contributed to by many translators over the years. They're not like the translations of the suttas that you get from the scriptures where they're specifically done by, say, for instance, he was quoting Bhikkhu Bodhi in 2017 of one particular sutta. It's not like that with chanting, because of course they have to be translated when they're translated into your language in a way that they can be said nicely, chanted nicely. So there's a little poetic license on the accuracy maybe, but actually because they're a condensed form of the sutta, they're to some extent more easy to understand and just as accurate, which is why they're so valuable. A very valuable exercise is chanting from that point of view, if you know what you're chanting. If you're sitting for hours on end chanting something and you don't know the meaning of it, frankly, it's pointless from as far as I can see. You're just using it maybe as a meditation object, but you're making a sound, in which case it doesn't matter what those words are. As long as they're not offensive, they could be anything, couldn't they? They're just sounds. But if you know the meaning, there's some reflection there. I think I've answered a few on chanting there. That's okay. Dare I go into this one? I'll save that one for another day. Keep you on tenterhooks. Oh, now I'm finding all these chanting things. Okay, now we go back to where I was. Oh, heavenly messengers, subtitles. So, hello, Phra Dan. Yeah, good evening. Have I? Yeah. Question. So, in the Buddhist tradition, a monk must shave it head bald, as sign of renunciation. But why the great Buddha Gautama himself not depicted as bald? Thanks. Okay. Well. Oh, that's someone else answering that question. It's interesting. The Buddha shaved his head as a symbolic sign of renunciation, because that was very much your status symbol, hair, as it is today, very important for people. And even I've spoken about this earlier, haven't I? It was another question. This is a different question along similar lines. We shave our heads as monks as part of our renunciation. The Buddha, likewise, shaved his head as part of his renunciation. But being the Buddha, it didn't ever grow much after that. We're allowed, in fact, to let our hair grow to... There's no specific rules about how often we shave our heads. In the Thai Forest tradition, we shave our heads the day before Riposita Day, so every 15 days. But if we're unable to, we're not breaking a serious rule, because we're allowed to let our hair grow up to 2 fingers breadth long. And the Buddha's being the Buddha, his hair never growed any more than that. But that's not really the reason why he's always depicted as having hair. It's because the image we see of the Buddha comes from Greek mythology. This image we use to this day came from the Greeks, Greece, and therefore their iconography is such that he has this athletic appearance of a very handsome man and seemingly lots of hair, and perhaps doesn't really resemble what the Buddha actually looked like, because of course nobody knows this. The Buddha himself said there should be no images of him, there need be no statues, no pictures. He said, just an empty space is good enough. And often he is depicted as some footprints in the ground or an empty chair. This is more accurate, this is more appropriate, this is what he said. But, I might answer that other question in a minute because it's related, but we as human beings like to have something to relate to, don't we? So similarly, as Buddha didn't necessarily look like that because that image came from Greece, Jesus wouldn't have looked like the image we see Jesus today as a white, almost blonde individual. He wouldn't have looked like that at all, necessarily, but it's how we associate his image. It's something that's become something we're used to. So it's not factual. Buddha Rupa, this statue, it has certain elements of fact about it. His position, his posture. This can be read in the suttas, but he isn't described in the suttas. Apart from certain qualities, his ascetic appearance, not ascetic, aesthetic appearance is not described in the suttas, nor is Jesus's looks described particularly. We make various assumptions from where they come from and draw various conclusions, but they can all be different and a matter of point of view, a matter of opinion. So we shouldn't get too involved in that. The Buddha cut off his hair. So there are various other ideas on that as well, answers that you might hear. But the truth of it is not that important. In the Buddha's time, the monks wouldn't have had the opportunity always to shave their heads as often as we do now. But certainly in the ordination process, it was very important, and then you can let it grow. In the Tibetan traditions, they do it the once, I think, and then they grow into these big, long, massive dreadlocks and live in a cave for the rest of their lives. And that it's only shaved again and their nails cut again when they come out of that kind of recluse situation. So it's treated slightly differently again. Okay. I think it is important to respect other people's beliefs regardless, if you don't agree with them, rather than trying to prove them wrong. Their beliefs are just as valid as yours, so don't rise to their ignorant and belittling comments. I haven't really had any ignorant or belittling comments. There's been one or two, that's all, comments which were just only discussing something I might have said in relation to... there was this one comment, yes, and I talked about it and used it as the title of the video, about... often some Christians they make these Bible statements. They're not actually really their own comments, they're just quotes from the Bible. Like, Jesus is the truth, he is the way, or something like this. But then they might add a little bit on the end, saying, so the Buddha is a liar. This was the comment they're referring to. I didn't really rise to argue the point. I was merely pointing out aspects of Buddhism which are true, in that the teachings of the Buddha are only based on truths that we can experience and see for ourselves, where aspects of the teachings of Jesus, which I respect very much, are reliant on belief. This was the only thing there. So yes, I agree with the subscriber and what they're saying here. But in terms of us as Buddhists, we have no beliefs. So therefore it is actually much easier for us to respect all other faiths' beliefs, because there's no conflict there. If you have a set of beliefs, someone else's beliefs, then you have are different, then you have a conflict. But in Buddhism, there are no beliefs. So if someone believes in anything, it doesn't matter. Let them, they can believe in that. It has no conflict or we have no problem as Buddhists with anyone believing anything. If they believe Mickey Mouse is the second Messiah, that's okay. It doesn't conflict with Buddhism at all, because there are no beliefs in Buddhism. There are only facts and truths. So, thank you for your advice, but it's, I think I've answered that to you directly. That's not a problem. Right. Can I talk more about how to navigate when in pure jhana state, when meditating? Where are you trying to navigate to? I think we need to establish what you mean by pure jhana state. I mean, jhana is really, let's say, we have names, we have these 8 jhanas, 4 rupa jhanas, bodily jhanas, and 4 arupa jhanas, so mental jhanas, so aside from the body. And in samadhi, deep absorbed states of samadhi, you go through these stages. So when you say pure jhana, I'm not sure what stage you're referring to, but if you're looking at being in samadhi and you're calling that pure jhana, that you're in a deeply absorbed state, then there is nowhere to navigate to. You will just continue with your meditation and go with whatever happens. There is nothing to do. Continue watching your meditation object. And I think I just asked you to perhaps explain what you mean, but this is, I suppose one can go through the whole discussion of the jhanas, but you can really get too involved in talking about stages of samadhi and stages of jhanas. And if you just search on my channel here, I've gone into some detail about samadhi, stages of samadhi, stages of jhana. If you search that, they'll come up, those talks. But it's not necessary to know what all these stages are. They're useful to have as guidelines, so that when you're experiencing things, you can know what you are experiencing. But other than that, if you're saying to yourself, I've got to this stage, now I need to get to that stage, that isn't developing, that isn't samadhi, as in the Noble Eightfold Path. You should just practice your meditation, sitting effortlessly, other than with the discipline to try and keep your mind on the meditation object. Now, what will come into effect are the 5 hindrances to try and always detract from that attention from the meditation object. And if you're navigating anything, you're navigating away from those hindrances of sensual desire, of aversion, of tiredness, of restlessness and worry, and of doubt. Navigating away from those in towards your meditation object again, in order to keep your awareness internal, inside, rather than as a result being stimulated by what you're seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, feeling, touching, feeling, and what you're thinking emotionally and thought. Steering away from that always, but only gently steering away from that, not gripping with all your might the steering wheel, just guiding yourself back to the meditation object when necessary. But if you're in a state of pure jhana, as in the 8th jhana, arupa jhana, then you'd not have this question. If you have the 1st jhana, you'd not have this question. There's nowhere to navigate to. Okay, so this is about insects, which I think I've answered before. Someone has a plague of ants and things, and about killing them with insecticides or what have you. You see, I have a lot of insects in here. All my windows and doors are open. It's night time. I have one mosquito repellent coil burning away and some incense sticks making some smoke. They don't harm, but they suggest to the mosquitoes not to come in. Don't work very well, but they do something, I think. If you have a lot of ants, because this lady has plants and things, one thing most ants and creatures don't want to get involved with is water, with the exception of mosquitoes. But they fly anyway. But ants, crawling insects, don't want to. So you can just put a little moat, a little bit of water on the ground like that, and they won't cross that. One place I was staying, there was some very, very painful, some ants that if they bit you, it was a very painful thing. I had to go to hospital once when an ant bit me and have an injection, an antihistamine injection, because my arm swelled up as big as this bowl here, like that. And once you've had this injection, it doesn't seem to happen again when they bite you. But anyway, it's something that happens here in India. Anyway, I was really quite worried about these ants because they come in the night and you wouldn't know they were there, and they can get into your robes and bite you anywhere. So could be quite difficult. Anyway, I just put some water across the threshold of the door, and that stopped them coming in. They wouldn't cross the water. So you can just slush some water around on the floor. You might wash away the ants, but it's not too cruel. It's just like the rain. They can swim a little bit and they'll just wash away, but they won't come back across the water if there's some left. It acts like a little moat. So just try that. Then you're not killing anything. Have I met Mr. I was going to say Mr. Have I met Ajahn Brahm? No, I haven't met Ajahn Brahm in person. He was probably the first Dharma teacher I heard speaking, monk, that I heard speaking about the Dharma. Because a friend of mine had some tape in those days maybe, or even a CD, I don't know what it was, in his vehicle, and was playing it one day when I'd already started to investigate Buddhism. He was telling me he had a wife who came from Thailand, and he was saying he listens to Ajahn Brahm because he's a good Dharma teacher and easy to understand, and that is the case. So I started listening to him then, as a result of a kind friend introducing me to him, and I still listen to him occasionally now. But no, I haven't had the opportunity or pleasure to see him in person, let alone meet him, and probably will never do so, as he's in Australia and our paths don't cross in England. He doesn't go there very often, and nor do I. The subscriber writing to me, he has had the opportunity to stay in his monastery and meet him and see him in person. So you are very truly blessed to having had that opportunity. So you're very fortunate indeed, and consider yourself so. That's very, very lucky. He's a very good teacher. Oh, that's not really, I don't understand. Oh, there's the what translation are you using? Well, we know that one now. Oh, now all those chanting questions have come up. I'm not very organised with these questions today. Right, I'm going to take one of these, because then I think oh no, that's some of these questions you see connect to other questions. I didn't pay any attention to the time, did I? So maybe we'll leave it there for today. See if there's one quick one. I think I've covered all of those for today. There are some somewhere else, but I don't know how to find them on here. I'll have to work that one out later. But I appreciate these questions coming in and the comments. One thing I'll say is if I, sometimes, I don't know how it happens, but maybe I'll answer a question or someone else's question, and you'll put your questions in, how would I describe it? Like a thread. I'll never see them. I only see those by chance, pure chance. I have to go into a whole different thing on here, which I'm not interested in doing. These questions, these comments come straight as comments and questions. I have to go all deep into a thread of, so say I answer a question and then you reply to that answer with another question. I won't see that. Start a whole new comment, make a new question. Because I'm not a social media person. I don't use Facebook. I'm not familiar with this. As you can see, I'm going direct. Normally I write them all out. But that's getting a bit tiresome doing that. So I thought, well, I'll just read them directly off the screen. And that's going to take a little bit of getting used to for me. So if they're hidden in threads and threads of going here, going there, looking, I won't be finding your questions or your comments. So please just make a new comment. I'm not even sure how you do that, but you just, you take a blank, the box on any video. It doesn't matter. I'll see them all. I never really relate the comments to the video. That I can't remember what the video was about. It comes under the little headline of the video, the pictures there, but I don't remember what I said in that particular video. Even from the title, it's not necessarily that apparent to me. You have to remember, I'm a bumbling old fool doing this. I'm not even that familiar with the modern world of social media because I've been out of the loop in that respect. I haven't, other people of my age have grown up with it, so to speak, over this last 10, 20 years, and it's come a long way. But this last 10 or so years, I've been out of the loop. And I'm just coming back into it, and it's when it seems very easy to use, but I'm only on the surface. I'm not delving deep into, this comment, that comment, filtering these and going here. I'm just, a comment's there. Oh, thank you, that's a nice thing to say. Oh, that's a question. Thank you for the question. And answering the question. So bear that in mind, please. I'm just respectfully asking you to just be kind to me and make it simple for me to see your questions. Then I'm very happy to answer them. And also, maybe sometimes you don't necessarily need to also always say so much. As interesting as it is to hear the whole background behind your question, then it can be quite a lot of, by all means send me a long email or something. But in the comments, maybe just get to the point of the question, because some of these go on to several pages if they were on paper for a question that's quite a short answer. And I'm not going to read out the whole of that as it's a comment. I will read it myself and answer the question, as I always do directly. But then when I'm looking for the question later on, like now, some of these I can't even find the question. I'd have to read them again, which is why I was before copying the questions out and literally writing them down. But that gets a little bit time consuming. It hasn't been, but as there's more questions, it will become too time consuming. So keep questions nice and concise and to the point, and then I can answer them very easily, very much more quickly. I hope you don't mind me suggesting that. And I'm not particularly pointing in any direction here. As to myself, as I say, this is new to me. So I'm addressing this to myself as much as you. Not that I've ever made a comment on any video anywhere ever. So that's why I don't know much about it, because all I've ever done is reply to these as I do. So that's that. So thank you for watching. If there's something useful there, please, I hope you can use it. If not, then just let it go. And thank you for watching.